Please go to the police right now. What? Why are you saying that all of a sudden? For 20 years, I've been caring for my husband who has Alzheimer's. Today, we went to see our doctor for a checkup, and while Richard was being examined, the doctor came to me and said that. I was puzzled. Even if I was told to go to the police, I didn't understand why. Confused, I asked the doctor for a reason. Even if you tell me to go to the police, I don't know what my husband has done. Hearing my question, the doctor's expression clouded over. What could it be? Is it something that's difficult to say? Please don't be shocked. For the past 20 years, your husband has been. As the doctor slowly began to reveal the truth, I couldn't hide my surprise. I couldn't believe that Richard had been doing such a thing. Is that really true? When I asked again, the doctor silently nodded. I couldn't believe it. He had been doing such things without my knowledge. Overwhelmed, I quickly left the hospital and headed straight to the nearest police station. My name is Judy. I'm turning 80 this year. I've been married for 60 years to my husband, Richard, who worked in our local town. It all started when Richard turned 60. After he retired, he gradually began to show signs of dementia. Hey, do you know where my glasses went? Glasses? Huh? You're wearing them right now. What? Oh, right, I am. It's easy to forget something as common as wearing glasses. However, it wasn't just that. 6 months after Richard retired, he began saying things like, "Where is this place?" Where? It's our home, you and me. It's my first time here, but it feels cozy. Moreover, there were times when he suddenly got up at 3 a.m. and went outside. Was this dementia? Worried, I decided to take him to the hospital one day. These symptoms suggest his dementia is progressing. So, is there no treatment? While complete recovery is difficult, palliative treatments are possible. It's best to regularly adjust the approach based on periodic exams. I was shocked to hear the official diagnosis from the doctor. That Richard indeed had dementia. Eventually, he might even forget me. The thought made me incredibly anxious. Do you know who I am? What are you talking about? It's Judy, right? I know that much. Richard called my name with a laugh. I decided. There was no use in worrying. I would do everything I could for him. That's when I started caring for Richard. 5 years since the diagnosis, Richard gradually became more irritable. Your dinner is ready. Who are you? How did you get in here? What are you talking about? It's me, Judy. I don't know you. Get out. I don't want to eat food made by a stranger. Although he often hurled insults at me, a few minutes later, he would ask, Judy, is the dinner ready? Was this really dementia? Day by day, the symptoms worsened, and I was constantly being stressed. As time went by, we both turned 80. Perhaps it was time to consider a care facility. Richard wanders almost every night, and sometimes he can barely remember my name. I'm reaching my physical and mental limits with him. Listen, lately, I've been feeling really exhausted. You go out in the middle of the night, and I can't move as I used to. Maybe it's time to think about moving to a facility. What? Me, in a facility? Don't be ridiculous. Why should I have to go to a place like that? Richard became angry, and it was impossible to discuss further. I was saying this because I couldn't take care of him alone anymore. But without his consent, I couldn't place him in a facility. Doctor, I'm really exhausted, and I can't take care of him anymore. What should I do? As the symptoms showed no signs of improvement, I asked the doctor for advice while crying. I knew dementia could not be cured. I've been adjusting the medication doses and types according to your husband's symptoms, but it doesn't seem to be improving much. Maybe consider a facility? That's the thing. When I brought up the idea of a facility, he got angry and refused. I see. Both the doctor and I were at a loss about how to resolve the situation. Eventually, I just had to endure and continue with the treatment. And I left the hospital feeling somewhat settled. That evening, after having dinner at home, I noticed an envelope on the desk. Had that envelope been there before? Curious, I asked my husband without looking inside. Hey, what's this envelope? Is it mail for me? Envelope. Oh. What's with the rush? I'm not rushing or anything. I had asked my husband casually, but he seemed quite flustered. I became curious about the contents as I reached for the envelope. And he loudly stopped me. Hey, that's mine. Don't look at it without permission. Give it here. Startled by his loud voice, I handed over the envelope to him unintentionally. Still, the envelope felt thick. I wondered what was inside. Please don't shout. Here, take it. After receiving the envelope from me, my husband hurried off to the bedroom, leaving a meaningful remark as he left the living room. I managed to cover it up. Huh? Cover up what? I didn't understand the true intention behind my husband's words. But he must be hiding something. Despite my lingering doubts, I was overcome with sleepiness and decided to go to bed that night. A month later, my husband still went out somewhere in the middle of the night. Each time I would wake up, but since he always returned home eventually, I recently stopped going out to look for him. However, I was concerned about his behavior on nights he went out. He would always end up buying large amounts of groceries at stores around noon. Where did the money come from since he retired? 3 days later, on the day of my husband's routine medical exam, the doctor said something shocking. Please go to the police right now. What? Why are you saying that all of a sudden? Even though I was told to go to the police, I didn't understand why. Confused, I asked the doctor for a reason. Even if you tell me to go to the police, I don't understand what you mean. Seeing my puzzled expression, the doctor's face clouded over. What could it be? Is it something that's difficult to say? Please don't be shocked. Actually, your husband has been pretending for the past 20 years. What? Earlier, during your husband's counseling session, he mentioned happily that he often goes out at night. When asked where he goes, he said his former workplace. If that's true, it's trespassing. It's best to consult with the police before it becomes a bigger issue. Oh, is that so? Well, considering his dementia, I can somewhat understand why he might go to his old workplace. About that, it's possible your husband doesn't actually have dementia. What do you mean? His responses are too clear for someone with dementia. There's been no change even after adjusting his medication. I've seen many patients, and some pretend to have dementia. Your husband seems to be one of them. I couldn't hide my shock as the doctor slowly revealed the truth. All this time, the symptoms were an act? He was pretending to have dementia and sneaking off to his old workplace at night? Could it be related to what was in that envelope? What's the likelihood he's been lying? While it's true that his cognitive function has declined somewhat due to age, I believe more than 80% of it is likely fabricated. I couldn't just sit by. If what the doctor said was true. My husband still had some time before his exams were done. I left him in the care of the doctor and immediately left the hospital to head to the nearest police station. Excuse me. I need some advice. What's the matter? Why such a rush? Is it an emergency? It's not exactly an emergency. It seems like my husband has been pretending to have dementia and sneaking into the factory at night. Really? Is that true? I don't want to believe it either, but the doctor mentioned there's a possibility that he's pretending to have dementia. Is that so? Understood. We'll increase our patrols accordingly. Could you please provide your phone number, address, and name? I filled in the information requested by the police and returned to the hospital. Richard had already finished his examination and was waiting in the waiting area. Sorry for being late. I had something to take care of. I'm tired of waiting. Let's go home. I was hoping nothing would happen, but that very night, Richard went out again. I assumed he probably went to his old workplace again while I waited at home. Then, an hour later, despite it being the middle of the night, our home phone rang. Could it be? Hello, yes, speaking. I'm sorry to call so late at night. We have arrested your husband for theft and trespassing. It appears he was stealing money from a safe. What? Trespassing I could somehow understand, but theft. He really did that. My worst fears had come true. The envelope he had hidden from me must have contained the stolen money. And he was using that money for his large purchases at the store. It all connected. We need you to come to the station. Could you come in? We'd like to discuss his usual behavior. Okay. I quickly got ready and hailed a taxi to the police station. After 20 years, to think he had been deceiving me like this. My anger towards Richard was overwhelming more than the sadness. Inside the police station, I was led to an interrogation room. Since earlier, he's been calling non-stop for you, and we can't get anywhere with him. Could you talk to him? We'll be listening nearby. Understood. Encouraged by the police, I sat down in the interrogation room. Across from me, Richard sat with a dejected expression. Do you recognize me? I don't know why I'm even here. Still continuing with that act. Enough is enough. I slammed my hand on the table and raised my voice at him. How long are you going to keep up this ridiculous act? I already know that your dementia is a lie. Dementia, a lie. You should know best that I have dementia, Judy. If it's not a lie, how come you suddenly remember my name now? After just saying you didn't know? Ah. He had clearly dug his own grave. Richard had a look of realization on his face. See. It was a lie, wasn't it? And the doctor mentioned it too, you know? He's seen many patients and said some pretend to have dementia. He was puzzled why changing your medication did nothing. Of course, there would be no change in symptoms if you never had dementia to begin with. As I pressed him, Richard fell silent. What do you have to say for yourself? You've wasted 20 years of my life. And this isn't the first time you've stolen from the factory, is it? So, why did you even pretend to have dementia? I thought, if I pretended to have dementia, I might get a lighter sentence if caught. I was astounded. Couldn't he have thought of a better excuse? I knew you've been sneaking into the factory at night to steal. We have no income, and you don't have that much allowance to be buying all sorts of things in bulk at the store. And lying is pointless. Anyone at the factory could easily find out. Even so, Richard was to blame, but so was the factory. How could they not notice something was being stolen every time? What kind of management is that? It got tough after I quit my job. I just wanted a little money to enjoy myself. Finally, he admitted it. And to think I was deceived for 20 years. What a pitiful person I am. I should have restricted his activities much earlier. You deceived me well for 20 years. If you wanted money to enjoy yourself, you could have worked through a senior job program. You're right. I just thought it was okay to take a little because that company never managed their money properly. They were always off in their calculations. Seriously? You're ridiculous. There's no excuse for that. I'm going to divorce you. Wait, please, how am I supposed to live without your support from now on? I don't care about that. Do you realize you've stolen 20 years of my life? I should be asking for compensation. Well, if he resorted to theft because he had no money, it's clear he wouldn't have any money now. Richard seemed unable to say anything further. He just sat there, his face turned down, frozen. That's how it is. Reflect on your actions in prison, okay? I'll leave the rest to you. I told the police that and left the interrogation room. As I was leaving, I heard Richard's cries of distress, but I ignored them. A month later, the divorce was finalized. And I was enjoying a stress-free life at home for the first time in years. Then, I got a call from the police saying that Richard had been sentenced. Your husband, as you mentioned, was found to have committed multiple thefts previously. His imprisonment has been confirmed, so I wanted to inform you today. Is that so? Thank you for letting me know. Also, I have no relation to him anymore, so his sentence is of no concern to me. Oh, and please tell him to take care in prison. I hung up after saying that. Eventually, Richard was sentenced to 5 years in prison. After serving those years, he might never come out again. He could even die in prison. It's his own fault for deceiving people and repeatedly stealing for his own benefit. He deserves to stay in prison for life. After hanging up, I was thinking this about my ex-husband. A year later, I received a letter with Richard's name as the sender. A letter from him. What could it be? I had never received a letter from my ex-husband before. Curious about what was written, I sat on the living room sofa and began to read. I'm truly sorry for deceiving you, Judy. I know it's just a letter, but please allow me to apologize. Now, in prison, I work with people of all ages, from young to old like me. I've started forgetting various things. I wonder if this is what real dementia is like. When I'm released, could we live together again? I swear by all that is sacred, I will never deceive you again. After reading the letter, I tore it up and threw it in the trash. Live together again? He must be joking. The next day, I quickly rented a cheap apartment. I didn't want to live in a house where he might return. Fortunately, I had some savings, so I managed to rent a new place and moved immediately. Of course, I had no intention of telling my ex-husband about this. Surely, he would keep sending letters to an empty house. My time was also running out. I vowed to spend the rest of my life peacefully on my own.